No, God, right. So, ask me how much sleep I've gotten in the last week. Go ahead, ask me. Next to nothing. Then again, it's been like that for about a year or so. So I mean, hey. So last week I went to the hospital via an ambulance in the United States of America because of a stroke, or at least what I thought was a stroke. Apparently not. Listen, so I was watching the finale, the Alice in Borderland finale, right? And the last 20 minutes, all of a sudden, my arm goes completely numb. This is just the beginning of it all. My arm goes completely numb from here to all the way up here. And it's not my carpal tunnel syndrome kind of numbing. No. Carpal tunnel syndrome numbing is, it's a little gradual, right? Not the whole entire arm all at once, alright? Not for me anyways. It has never ever been like that. Normally if it's carpal tunnel syndrome numbing, it's tingly and sometimes painful because it tingles, right? And then I start to get the pain in my wrist. That's not what was happening here. This was a completely different kind of numbing that had me nervous, but I wasn't trying to fret just yet, and I was just doing the usual exercises that I do when my carpal tunnel syndrome does start to act up. But then shortly after that, the numbing started to also spread over to my face, mostly right around here, to which I should say I also had TMD. People call it TMJ. It's TMD, the actual syndrome itself. But normally, I get pain here, not numbness. So that was another thing. When you look up stroke symptoms, it can also be, usually it's your face drooping, but it can also be like the numbing feeling going into your jaw and into your neck, which was new for me. So there was that. The dizziness, the vertigo type of thing. It's really hard for me to explain what my eyes were feeling like. It was kind of like how if I were to, like I get lightheaded a lot and then my eyes get blurry, but my eyesight wasn't blurry. Again, it's so hard to explain what the feeling is like, but clearly it wasn't normal. And so as I'm trying to look at stuff, I'm just like, I really don't really know what I'm looking at right now. The whole slurred speech thing, I mean, I'm deaf, that kind of comes with the territory already, but obviously this would be much more significant than what my speech usually is as a deaf person. Now, that part itself was hard for me to figure out. I mean, I would just keep talking to myself and try to figure it out, but I couldn't really figure it out. But I did notice that once I finally called 911, as they were talking to me, the communication was starting to be a little bit of a struggle. I mean, aside from the whole deaf thing, but just me even trying to say something, I'm just like, I don't know what the hell is going on right now. So yeah, I pushed a little button on my phone and went to call 911. That was a struggle and a half because even with Bluetooth hearing aids being connected to my phone, trying to understand the guy was a bit difficult, and I had the live caption thing on, iOS 16 has that new live caption thing. It wasn't working at all, so that was fun. I don't think texting 911 is available here at the moment, which is annoying. I'm gonna have to find that out once this is done. Took about 15 minutes for ambulance, fire rescue to arrive. There's a whole bunch of people coming over to the complex, and yeah, so they were trying to ask me questions, and one paramedic was nice and actually was starting to type things on his phone, and I was like, yo, I'm deaf. And one guy was really just, he was like, you don't want me to shout at you. I was like, yeah, don't shout at me. And he was trying to figure out, he's like, are you lip reading me or what? I'm like, I got my hearing aids in, which is the only way I can lip read you, and da-da-da. But you're probably gonna need to get an interpreter at the hospital. Spoiler alert, nobody got an interpreter at the hospital. So yeah, going into the ambulance and going to the ER. Yeah, and that was 4.5 hours spent in the hospital. I can say this hospital visit was a lot more pleasant compared to when I had to go to the ER after a car accident. I will say that's really only because of the fact that I have hearing aids now. But of course, in a mask wearing environment now, that is, it's still a little bit difficult. For the most part, I'm gonna make a video on this, more specifically about accessibility practices that hospitals really need to utilize, which I feel like has only been said time and time again, but let's do it again in the future, shall we? My main doctor was really nice, actually. She wasn't wearing a mask. Well, she was, and then she took it off so I could lip read, and then she was like distanced, right, for the most part. And I had my mask on, so I could understand her. A couple of people didn't take their masks off, which is fine, obviously. But there was, of course, that usual struggle, you know, when you're like, hey, I can't understand you, so a hand gesture or something, or get that VRI. Okay, here's the thing with VRI, right, which is a virtual or video relay interpreter, right? So you got your interpreter, but it's on a video screen. The main doctor did offer it, and I didn't take it. So that's on me. For that moment, that's on me that I didn't take it. But it was because I could understand her, and what I didn't realize was going to happen is that they were going to get about 20 new people in this whole time. I think I've seen like 20 different people the whole entire night, and nobody would communicate with each other. Like, hey, the patient in here is deaf. So lots of people being confused when they're knocking on a door, nobody's answering, or being called on the intercom, nobody's answering, or people staring at me when they're trying to tell me if they're going to do something, and I'm just kind of like, wait, what? And then I'll tell them that they're deaf, and then I'll tell them that they're deaf. I'll tell them that I tell them that I'm deaf. Some of these folks will be like, oh, okay, well, they'll hand gesture. Some of them took their mask off real quickly and then put them back on. There were a few that would just keep on talking and wouldn't really even attempt to change the way that they were communicating with me. So not even like with gestures or anything. So I'm just kind of like, I don't know what you're telling me. So it was at the point where I got my own phone, and then I had to be like, okay, here you go. Type it out, please, because not even hand gestures are being utilized at this point. And then at some point, I did start requesting the VRI again, but they kind of just, I requested a VRI when somebody else came up, and when the person that came in to take my payment information or my insurance information and was having this like list of things, questions. One of the questions said, does this person need an interpreter? And I looked at that and I said, yes, please get me the interpreter now. And they put the thing on yes, and then I never got the interpreter. And it's funny because I always said like, yo, hey, self-advocate for yourself and say this and that, but I'm tired. I was so tired, none of it. I was just like, alright, okay, I guess. But yeah, so some chest x-rays done, something like that. Various tests, blood tests. They wanted me to do a urine test, but I don't think they did anything with it. No, actually, because it was still on the table when I left. But they, all in all, came in and said, we don't know what's wrong with you, and we don't think you had a blood clot or a stroke. You had the symptoms. You had the symptoms of a stroke, but you didn't have the stroke. The TIA maybe? I don't know. Phantom stroke? I don't know. But I found it really weird. They did say I was dehydrated clearly, but obviously before that I had not eaten for like 6 hours or something, so they had an IV in me, so eventually then my heart rate went down. They told me it was very high at one moment, and then once they got the IV in, it went down to like a normal heart rate level. She was like, yeah, that's dehydration for sure. But yeah, so everything was normal. That's fun. And I was starting to feel a little bit better by like hour 2 of being in there, to which I said, wow, maybe I should have just waited an extra hour or 2 and then be fine. I wouldn't have potentially, it's likely going to be very expensive hospital bill coming to my mailbox at some point. I'm still waiting for it. I don't know how great my insurance that I just started having on the 1st is going to be, and I make jack shit when it comes to income. So that's gonna be a fun time. So they don't know what's wrong with me, but I think I found the culprit. This is meloxicam, and this is used for when you have pain, muscle pain. And literally the day before, I went to my GP because I was having muscle pain in my thigh for days, and it was getting to the point where I was like, could this be a blood clot? I don't know what's wrong with this, because I've done everything I can possibly think of to make it go away, and it won't really go away. So I got slightly worried, of course, and it was throbbing and all this other stuff, so I went to the GP. The visit itself is free, and the meloxicam is free with my insurance, right? And so the guy, my doctor, was like, yeah, I don't think it's a blood clot, I think it's a muscle strain. So, take the meloxicam once a day until it goes away. And then it just so happens that on pill number 2, hello symptoms. And when I talked to the hospital doctors, when they were like, we don't think anything's wrong with you, or we just don't know. And they knew I was taking meloxicam. I told them. And I told them all the other stuff that I have, all the stuff that I was feeling. And at the end of the day, I was like, hey, so that meloxicam I told you that I have, for this reason that kind of started this whole thing to begin with, do you think I would be okay to still take it? And they go, yeah, I should be fine. So I continued taking it when I got back. I took it 1 or 2 more days. I can't remember how long exactly. The numbness, all the symptoms started coming back again. And I was like, nah, we're not, no, nope. So I stopped taking it. And ever since then, guess who's symptom free? Except for the fact that this whole entire ordeal has basically kick-started my carpal tunnel syndrome again, which had pretty much been mostly dormant for a while, has kick-started the hell out of this thing again. And I know that it's carpal tunnel syndrome, numbness and all of that, because I remember that feeling very well after being diagnosed with it in 2020. But aside from that, all the other symptoms that I had that were stroke-like, because they agreed, well, you had the symptoms, but we don't think it actually was that. We just don't know what it was. Those all went away after I officially stopped chewing one of these once every morning that I was. So, a GP visit and medication that was $0 turned into an ER visit, being taken there by an ambulance because I wasn't driving myself and everybody else here was not home. So, turning into that amount of dollars that it's gonna be not exactly my greatest experience in life, especially to start 2023 off with. After everything that's been happening in 2022 and, 31 years of life, let's be honest. I was trying to be hopeful for 2023, and just have a chill moment. The universe said no, because you have insurance now again that you're paying out of pocket for. Let's make that useful, right? I mean, I would have preferred to just go to a foot specialist for my swollen foot that I've had for a couple of years now, rather than going to a hospital and taking a bunch of tests. But alright, so I've been alright. I mean, I've been pretty exhausted. And then, having my carpal tunnel syndrome kicked up again, that hasn't been so much fun. But I'm at least glad that I don't have whatever the hell that was happening last Wednesday evening. I will say this, to the main doctor that was taking care of me, and that one guy paramedic that gave me a Gatorade, I love you two so much. Like, those two were, the guy was freaking hilarious when he was offering me a drink, and I was like, yeah, I'd like a drink. He's like, oh wait, no, I don't think I'm allowed to give you anything yet. And then he was just like, I gotta be the bad guy, I can't give you anything. Like, he was being dramatic about it, and it was hilarious. But then he came back in like 2 seconds later, like, oh wait, they just told me I can give you something. Anyway, I loved him. And then the main doctor that I had was pretty nice. There was another woman there at the start that I really liked as well, so they at least worked with me the best way that they could. I do wish that I had, once I was like, okay, I'm changing my mind, can I get the VRI? Because the doctor that offered it, and I was like, it's okay for right now, because I'm completely out of it apparently. And she was like, well, if you do need it, just let us know and then we'll get it. And then I kept telling multiple people and they were just like, I don't know. I do wish that everybody would communicate that when like a person is deaf in the room, like everybody would be like, yo, this patient is deaf. Somebody brought this up on LinkedIn because I made a post on Instagram, like 7 hospital accessibility practices, because I was talking to somebody that was keeping me company overnight, basically, because he was asking like, well, what would be the best way to go about this, because he's a hearing guy, right? So, just talking about this stuff. Yeah, I was like, it would be nice if everybody would like communicate with each other, right? So I don't have to go and say it over and over again because it gets so awkward because everybody's just standing around like, I don't know what's going on. Somebody mentioned it on LinkedIn in a comment on that post, saying that they had suggested multiple times to like have a sign or something on the door, right, that says this patient is deaf, or communicate that. But somebody said, or somebody told them that it would be a HIPAA violation, so they can't do that. I'm gonna look into that. If somebody does know that answer though, go ahead and leave that down in the comments, please. I don't know. I'm telling you right now, if any nurse or somebody sees this, please just communicate it. Get that out of the way so I don't have to keep doing it to 20 different people that come in. But okay. At least it's nothing worse. I guess, yay, it wasn't a stroke. I mean, somebody should be happy that it wasn't a stroke. Because we have had a family history of strokes, so there's that. And blood clots. But yeah, I'm just like, great. can't wait for that bill though, because you know the American healthcare is so great. So I'm gonna be stressed about that. Who wouldn't be? About a hospital bill, even when they do have insurance. I just don't know how good it is when it comes to hospital bills. We'll figure that out when it comes. But I do have a Patreon and, you know, merch and stuff, and I am an accessibility consultant. So, I mean, hey, if you want to hire me for something, please do. Because I need the work now, especially to pay that stuff off. So yeah, with all that being said, look out for a future video on hospital accessibility practices, to which, if you have suggestions, go ahead and leave those in the comments as well, and I will try to include that in a video. I don't have a certain number of things that I'm gonna put for a video. It'll just be as much as we can all think of together, right? So, cool. So, thanks for listening to the story. I'm slowly starting to get back into, like, doing all the work that I need to do, writing and otherwise, video making. I'm just trying not to, like, pass out in my bed every once in a while, because that was happening for, like, all weekend. And now it's Wednesday, right? Yeah, okay. So, cool. I'm rambling. Thank you for watching. Other than the Patreon thing that you can subscribe to for extra content and to support my work and things like that, there is a little super thanks somewhere down here. It's like a YouTube tip jar. Always very much appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't yet. There's that little notification bell somewhere around here as well. So if you click on that, you should hopefully be notified when I upload something new. Thank you for watching this to the end if you made it this far with whatever rambling I'm doing right now. And I will see you later.